Alex Antic. Great to see you, Senator from South Australia. Alex, you joined our conversation at exactly the correct moment. You can enlighten us about what we're going to do, about the fact that our world of academia has gone completely crazy, decolonising maths, engineering degrees where you've got to recite the acknowledgement to country, etc. What can be done to rein in this lefty lunacy?
Well, I think the first thing, Rowan, is talking about it. I mean, we've got to make it an issue, I suppose, to start off with. I mean, one of the things that I tried to push through an estimate about whether or not they considered Australia Day to be an invasion. I mean, that's actually buried in there somewhere in the curriculum, as well as a whole range of theory-type issues. So it's all in there. We've got to pick it out. I don't think, for the better part, many parents are actually aware of what's being taught to their kids. So I think awareness is the first thing. And we're doing a bit of work here through my office trying to get some of these things highlighted. Because I think when parents understand what their kids are being taught and probably aren't repeating when they come home, they'll be appalled.
Yeah, and they often don't repeat it because they're probably told not to repeat it in front of their parents. We've seen examples of that. Now, Alex, I wanted to talk to you. We wanted to talk to you about the Bali meeting that Anthony Albanese has just been at. All the leaders were there. Out of it came this declaration, so the Bali Declaration. Everyone signs these things. We kind of take it for granted that they're putting our best interests forward. But buried deep within the latest, it's actually, I think, paragraph 23 in the latest Bali Declaration, which we've signed up to now as Australia, it says, quote, "We support continued international dialogue and collaboration on the establishment of trusted global digital health networks that should capitalise and build on the success of the existing digital COVID-19 certificates." Isn't this just embedding digital passports, that health passports, into the world, into the Western world, Alex?
Rowan. I mean, ultimately, this is the issue that's just not being talked about enough in politics, in my view. This issue of digital ID, the issue of everybody knowing what everyone else is doing in the surveillance state, coupled with, central bank digital currencies and social credit system. This is a frightening and fairly ugly-looking future from where I sit. And, presumably we signed up to this. And when you flip into that, the secret meetings that are going on with a whole range of countries from the World Health Organization about amendments to the international health regulations, these are all happening in secret. We've asked them questions about whether Australia is participating, what the proposals are, but what you're basically seeing is a global technocracy getting bricked into our world. People won't be able to travel unless you do what the state says. They're going to know where you are, they're going to know how much money you've got, and they're going to know how to switch it off if you're naughty.
Well, Senator, you just said, the word travel, but one of the things that I could see this going down towards an international carbon passport, and a carbon passport for what you're allowed to exhale or, expend in terms of your CO2. What are your thoughts about how Chris Bowen has performed here in basically signing Australia up to the whole COP27 agenda, getting praise from John Kerry, who's on his private jet and not, cutting his own emissions? Where does this leave Australia, and why, when we see what the rest of the world is doing and going on in the rest of the world, are we signing up and saying, yeah, give us some of what you got in California or Germany or Britain?
Or the Netherlands, for that matter, or Sri Lanka, or you name it. I mean, you only have to look to what's happening in Europe to see what Australian farmers can expect out of this. And we've heard out of Labor that there is no expectation that we will see any of these things translate into sort of a compress on agriculture and farming and all that sort of stuff. And if you believe that, I've got a nice big bridge over the Sydney Harbour that I've got for sale. You can have it at any time, cheap price, mates rates, no problem at all. The reality here is, why sign the methane pledge if you don't want to follow Jacinda? And we know how much Chris Bowen loves Jacinda Ardern. There's almost this sort of, adoration there. We're going to do exactly what Europe did. Farmers need to be aware of this. Agricultural companies need to be aware of this. We need the National Farmers Federation to grow a pair and start trying to actually push back on some of this, rather than capitulating, as we're seeing from almost every lobby body that goes across the country at the moment, because they are coming for your stake. Let me be very clear about that. And For the lay people out there, for friends of mine that don't understand what's happening, I say to you all the time, you're going to understand when you go to that barbecue and you can't scan it through because you've had your one steak for the week. We're saving the planet here after all, right? So, saving it one chop at a time.
Rita.
Well, this Bali Leaders Declaration that we've already now signed up to, I mean, how is it not the start of a social credit system where you can make these decisions about people's behaviour and what they're entitled to?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And you can see the three-point pincer movement happening between this rapid acceleration of central bank digital currencies mixed with this digital ID stuff. We're going to get that in the next period. The next 12 months, probably that legislation is going to come back. And then when you top it all on top of that, the surveillance state and social credit, it's like the axis of evil when it comes to liberty. And, this is real. Like, this is the issue that politics are not talking about. Well, we're off to Canberra to talk about things like the Voice and federal ICAC stuff that nobody cares about, by the way. Nobody in the real world cares about any of this stuff. They're going to have to start waking up in that building to what's really going on. And the fact that we're getting our strings pulled by a global elite who are making us dance to the beat of their own tune.
Alex Antic, always great to have your common sense, and you put the fear of God into all those characters in Canberra when you appear in those Senate estimates hearings with those critical questions like, what is a woman? I hope you'll be asking many more questions coming up. Thanks so much, Alex Antic.